Chapter 11. Nothing had more perplexed me in seeking to reconcile my sense to the existence of regions extending below the surface of the earth and habitable by beings, if dissimilar from, still in all material points of organism, akin to those in the upper world, than the contradiction thus presented to the doctrine in which, I believe, most geologists and philosophers concur, namely, that though with us the sun is the great source of heat, yet the deeper we go beneath the crust of the earth, the greater is the increasing heat, being, it is said, found in the ratio of a degree for every foot, commencing from 50 feet below the surface. But though the domains of the tribe I speak of were, on the higher ground, so comparatively near to the surface that I could account for a temperature therein suitable to organic life, yet even the ravines and valleys of that realm were much less hot than philosophers would deem possible at such a depth. Certainly not warmer than the south of France, or at least of Italy. And according to all the accounts I received, vast tracts immeasurably deeper beneath the surface, and in which one might have thought only salamanders could exist, were inhabited by innumerable races organized like ourselves. I cannot pretend in any way to account for a fact which is so at variance with the recognized laws of science, nor could Z help me much towards a solution of it. She did but conjecture that sufficient allowance had not been made by our philosophers for the extreme porousness of the interior earth, the vastness of its cavities and irregularities, which served to create free currents of air and frequent winds, and for the various modes in which heat is evaporated and thrown off. She allowed, however, that there was a depth at which the heat was deemed to be intolerable to such organized life as was known to the experience of the Vril-Ya, though their philosophers believed that even in such places life of some kind, life sentient, life intellectual, would be found abundant and thriving, could the philosophers penetrate to it. Wherever the all-good builds, she said, there, be sure, he places inhabitants. He loves not empty dwellings. She added, however, that many changes in temperature and climate had been effected by the skill of the Vril-Ya, and that the agency of Vril had been successfully employed in such changes. She described a subtle and life-giving medium called lye, which I suspect to be identical with the ethereal oxygen of Dr. Lewins, wherein work all the correlative forces united under the name of Vril, and contended that wherever this medium could be expanded, as it were, sufficiently for the various agencies of Vril to have ample play, a temperature congenial to the highest forms of life could be secured. She said also that it was the belief of their naturalists that flowers and vegetation had been produced originally, whether developed from seeds born from the surface of the earth in the earlier convulsions of nature, or imported by the tribes that first sought refuge in cavernous hollows, through the operations of the light constantly brought to bear on them, and the gradual improvements in culture. She said also that since the Vril light had superseded all other light-giving bodies, the colors of flower and foliage had become more brilliant, and vegetation had acquired larger growth. Leaving these matters to the consideration of those better competent to deal with them, I must now devote a few pages to the very interesting questions connected with the language of the Vril-Ya.